Welcome to the FWP Art Department making of I Like Cheeseburgers, the sign. My art projects start with something I find on the beach. Working on a new project. I'm making an I Like Cheeseburgers sign. I had another piece of driftwood that will be perfect for this project. I used my rotary tool to carve some lines into it. So far, so good. Next, I turn to my collection of broken glass, looking to fill the grooves I just carved with appropriate pieces of broken glass. Choosing the appropriate pieces of broken glass will take a little while, so let's speed it up. Each piece is carefully selected for its size and shape. After carefully choosing all the perfect pieces of glass, it's time to mount the glass into the grooves. I'll use some 5-minute epoxy to hold it tight. This is a 2-part epoxy. You start by mixing equal amounts of each part and then spreading it into the grooves, inserting the glass so that it can be permanently mounted. Each little portion takes a new mix of epoxy because the epoxy does dry fairly quickly. Each piece of glass is carefully and quickly placed in place because, as I mentioned, the epoxy dries quickly. The grooves I carved into the inside for the broken glass teeth were not quite large enough for the pieces of glass that I selected, so I'm simply enlarging the holes so the glass fits together. Oh yeah, it's all good now. Uh-oh, that's okay, we'll glue that in place. Once again, we're using a 5-minute 2-part epoxy to glue the teeth into place. Now we move on to working with the flat board. Again, I've put tape over so I can see the size of things and be able to fit everything into place. Ooh, look at that. Well done. What I should have done was remove the tape and put it on wax paper, thereby protecting the board underneath. And now I've hand-drawn a bunch of cheeseburgers on the bottom. I could have used a template, but I didn't. Now I begin cutting the letters out. I remove the tape from the piece so that I do not damage the piece of driftwood. Unfortunately, once again, I forgot to put it on wax paper, which makes it a little bit more difficult to pull it off of the cutting board. Cutting out all the little pieces of cheeseburgers takes a little bit of time and patience. As you can see, it was a bit of struggle to get the template off the cutting board and back onto the driftwood, but I did it! Next we get to the fun stuff, painting. I went to my local paint store and got some Pac-Man yellow. Now it's just a matter of putting on a nice heavy coat of yellow paint so we can have the right color. Looking good. I think maybe we're going to need a second coat, though. A second coat is always a good idea to make sure you get full saturation. Alright, back to the flat board. Now let's do some hand painting. We'll start off with some white for the lettering. Once again, this takes a little while, so let's speed things up. Ooh, I wish I could paint that fast. Isn't that exciting? And a second coat, of course. Ooh, looking good. All right. With the white lettering in place, it's time to move on to yellow for the cheese in the cheeseburger. I'm also painting a half of walnut shell, which will become the eye of the broken glass Pac-Man. Isn't that exciting? Hi there, how you doing? That's one happy artist. Next we move on to brown. Relative color of the hamburger patties, I suppose. And it's just a matter of taking the time and effort to fill in all the little hamburger spaces. I also mixed a lighter brown for the cheeseburger buns, but I guess that got lost in editing. Oh well. Continuing on, let's prepare the broken glass Pac-Man for painting. I'm going to mask around the base of the pieces of broken glass that I mounted into the driftwood. This will allow me to paint without making a huge mess. It takes a little bit of time to mask everything off, but it's worth spending that time. Now I can move on to actually painting. First up, let's get some white and paint those broken glass teeth. Remember to shake up your paint. I'm putting on a heavy coat of white to block out the yellow color underneath. And once again, I will do a couple of layers just to make it look good. Awesome! Now onto the broken glass mohawk. I have selected a green color to contrast the yellow. Once again, I'm putting on a heavy coat of green to try and block out the yellow beneath. Masking off the base of the glass allows me to paint a little bit quicker without getting any on the main surface. Once again, the hand painting does take a little bit of time, so I've sped things up for you. Excellent! Looking good! Now I turn my attention to the half walnut shell that I will be using for the eye. I'm going to take a little bit of black paint and paint an angled pupil, creating a Pac-Man in the eye. You can kind of see it. Oh well, you get the point. Next, I remove the masking tape from the sign. This is time-consuming and meticulous. Finally, I will outline the letters with black to make things stand out. A careful hand is needed. Too bad mine is a little bit shaky. Oh well, it's still gonna be all right. Ooh, looks good. Look at that. Awesome. With the flat signboard ready, I turn my attention back to the broken glass Pac-Man, removing the masking tape. Once again, this is even more meticulous and time-consuming because of the odd shape and the many pieces of tape that I needed to use. But hey, it was worth it. Look at that. It looks really cool. Oh, yeah. And that's one happy artist playing with his art. And finally, I bring out the black paint again, this time filling in the mouth of the broken glass Pac-Man to give it depth and texture. I realize that this is not terribly exciting to watch, so I've sped it up so you don't have to watch too much longer. All right, look at that. It looks pretty cool. The piece of driftwood has a lot of cracks and little holes. It takes me a while to get the black to fill in completely. But once it's all filled in, it looks really good. All right, now it's time to Gorilla Glue that eyeball into place. Once again, we've sped things up because watching somebody glue something is quite boring. But hey, the results are excellent! This is the vision I had for this piece of driftwood when I picked it up. I knew it would be a broken glass Pac-Man. I gotta admit, that's pretty neat. Unfortunately, there's not enough contrast between the yellow and white to bring out the shape of the eye. But that's okay. I'll use some of that green and a very fine-tipped pen brush that I use to make fine lines. And I will circle the eyeball, bringing out the Pac-Man in the eye of the broken glass Pac-Man. Awesome! That eye looks really good now. Well done. And I put on some clear coat to give it a good shine and a little bit of UV protection. This was an excellent project. I was very inspired. I had the broken glass Pac-Man, and when I got the comment, "I like cheeseburgers," I knew exactly what I had to do. I had to make this sign. As it turned out, I had just enough clear coat to do the job, and the can was empty. With both pieces of the sign painted and ready to go, the only thing left to do is to mount them together using screws. Even the screws I'm using, I found on the street. I take my time and check everything out so that I can make sure that I mount it in the proper position, because measure twice, cut once. And there it is, the final product. I like cheeseburgers, the sign. Look at that happy artist. He likes it. Oh, that is beautiful.